Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, joined by a full complement of chaps in the virtual studio. Sambo, Johnny, how are you?
Pretty good.
Good.
Pretty good. Yourself?
Excellent. Caught one. Oh, I'm good. I had a few tech hiccups tonight, so we're overcoming. We are advancing. We're overcoming and advancing. To quote the great Dan Hansis, there are no reverse gears in this tank. So we are moving forward tonight. Big recap pod coming up, chaps, because the Cats, we were told they were going to be no good after the 2022 flag. The cliff was arriving. Get used to losing a lot. We got that a lot over the offseason from some pretty buoyant Collingwood fans, chaps on Twitter. Enjoy many seasons without finals, Cats fans, yada, yada, yada. Well, not only did the Cats lock up a big win in the final home and away game of the season, not only did they lock up finals, they've locked up yet another double chance. I saw a number quoted somewhere this week that was Geelong's 14th qualifying final in 18 years, their 14th top four finish in 18 years. Stick that in your blunt and smoke it. Let's get into it.
Meanwhile,
Want to talk about
missed finals.
Such a shame. And look, this is the thing, John. Who cares? Like, if I'm a Collingwood fan, I'm happy. We just got a flag. We've missed finals. Who cares? It was like the Cats last year. Got the flag in 2022. But, just if you've missed, it's time to just pipe down just a little bit. Now, on the show tonight, going to talk all about Cats v Eagles, round 24 recap. Geelong pretty much played with both hands tied behind their backs in the second half and still came away with a massive crushing of the West Coast Eagles. So we're going to talk about all that. Then we're going to nick behind the Patreon subscription, the paywall. We're going to answer some Patreon questions to do with maybe some little bit of trade speculation. Maybe we'll talk about some of our favorite moments of this home and away season so far, and also an early look ahead to the qualifying final game against Port. We've got a question in there about how Geelong might combat the power and what they bring to the table. So we're going to get into all of that. And of course, if you want to hear that part of the show, jump over, sign up for your 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon. I say it every week. You know what you get access to: extra stuff, extended stuff, bonus stuff, yada, yada, yada. One more point of business, chaps, before we get into the show tonight. And it's a nice special little Hoops Crew Media Network announcement. And that is that for the AFLW season and moving forward, the AFL men's finals, etc., we welcome on board a new media network sponsor. And a big thank you to Cyril Cook, florist down in Geelong. I was looking up some different facts and figures and different bits and pieces when I was preparing, to do the sponsor read, etc. And the Cats became the Cats in 1923, chaps. 1923 is when we started adopting the name. Cyril Cook had been down in Geelong since 1915, since before the Cats were the Cats. So it's lovely to get
trivia question for you. Where did the Cats nickname come from?
Didn't a black cat turn up at training one night or something?
No, it was an news article written by one of the local newspapers saying that the Geelong Football Club's going to have to get the black cats off their backs to win a flag. So then they took on the black.
Is that
cat.
even a saying? Isn't it getting the monkey off your back?
It was something to do with black cats. Like I think it was, but it was something like the black cats following Geelong around. We've got no luck.
Oh, right.
So we'll take that as our nickname and symbol.
You realise if there's any error to your story, John, there's going to be furious Geelong scribes just
Yeah, well,
angrily writing in the YouTube comments, "You're wrong. You guys are always wrong about
I
everything." But what
probably
we're
am
not
wrong
wrong
about what
about.
the news article was written about, what the was, but I know it was from a news article. I'm 100% sure it was from there.
Maybe they can send John some angry letters accompanied by some lovely flowers from Cyril Cook.
Exactly.
That's right. That's right. So yes, a big thank you to Cyril Cook for jumping on board.
Absolutely.
And Chaps, quick bit of
Awesome.
other info for our listeners / viewers. You can get yourself 20% in-store discount from Cyril Cook. All right. So you can go online and order www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au. That's Cook with an E. You can call up 035 222 2244 and catch them over the phone. But if you walk into the store, Chaps, and it's shop
Yes.
12, shop 12, Chaps, 11 Leather Street, Breakwater, you can get yourself a 20% discount off your in-store purchase if you mention the Hoops crew sending you there. So
Lovely.
let's get on with the show. We say a massive thank you to our new media network sponsor. And we're going to fire straight in, Chaps, on the show tonight. The Cats, they successfully lock up the double chance with a big win over the Eagles. I'll do a quick recap for you, but it's not really going to be a massive deal to do. It pretty much went like this. Geelong, they goaled after 95 seconds. They goaled again after 5.5 minutes, again after 9.5 minutes, again after 12.5 minutes, again after 14.5 minutes, again after 17.5 minutes. And they goaled again at the 25-minute mark. All in all, they ran out 8-3-51 to 117 leaders at quarter time. They weren't done there. That scoreworm just kept going up and up and up. The Cats took an 18-6, 114 to 2-14 lead at the half. An absolute piss take of a first two quarters, really. I struggle to remember a game where I was so bored's the wrong word, but just like there was no sense of tension in this match at all. After about 3 goals in, it was like, oh boy. Now, to their credit, after halftime, the Eagles came out. They did fight back. They actually won the second half by 7 points, but it was real from where I stood. Cue in the rack stuff from the Cats. It was like, we've got a 100-point halftime lead. There were some injury concerns, of course, to Stewart, who was subbed out of the game, and Buse brought in. Lawson Humphreys was on the sideline with a bit of ice on the ankle. The Cats played it super cautious. They were down one rotation. Pretty much went goal for goal with the Eagles. And, they won the last quarter, I believe, Geelong. They kicked 5 goals, 4 in the last quarter, which kind of stuns me. To the Eagles, 4 goals, 1. Ultimately running out 26-12, 168 to 11-9-75 victors. Who wants to go first here? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
I
think I went first last week, so you go, John.
Crack in, John. Have at it.
Earlier in the year, I'll just mention this quickly, during our Hoops Crew half yearly.
You were I was gonna set you up, John. I was gonna set you up, but Johnny has to get it in. Go on.
I have to get it in.
Not like
I'm
he's
gonna
only
get it in.
17 times in the group chat.
Hey, when you get a couple of predictions right throughout the year, you gotta blow it up a little bit. I'm still waiting for your prediction to come true, Sam, and if it does come true, you can say as many times as you bloody well like.
Yeah,
No one will care.
I've got it timestamped for sure.
Well, halfway through the year, I just mentioned with yourself and Ben, Jake, that when Ben asked us, where do we think the Cats will finish? I sort of quietly thought we could finish third, and we did. I believe Jake's got a little clip for a bit later on, but I'll get into the recap first because I think the recap was like the game was pretty, as you said, Jake, halfway through the first quarter. feels like this game's going to be over at quarter time, and it really was over at quarter time, and it was done and dusted by halftime. And as we were saying throughout that first quarter, it's going to be hard to really take anything out of this game because West Coast were so out of it, so lackluster, so
Mm.
uninterested in the game, really, that the Cats just did whatever they pleased. And I reckon it could have been a lot worse, West Coast, if the Cats didn't sustain those couple of injury concerns.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, they took their foot right off the gas and they let West Coast do a little bit of their own thing, which for some reason frustrated Cats fans online, going, oh, it's another poor second half, or it's a poor second half because what was going to be the point of really punishing West Coast? We got the percentage we needed. We couldn't get any more points out of the game. It was just us relying on Port Adelaide to lose against Fremantle to gain another position. So in our minds and Cat's minds, it was like, well, there's no need to go overboard, risk more players right before the finals, risk doing something stupid throughout the game, and just coast to the end. And that's what it did. And a nice handy win that, as I said, boosted the percentage up to get us ahead of the Giants. And then the Dogs did the rest for us and got us in our lovely third position, which I lovely picked. Oh, very proud of myself there. They had a game, just as you said, Jay, it's just such a dull game, dull event. It's weird saying that, been watching the Cats game and going, well, we absolutely annihilated them. But it was also against a team that just didn't put any resistance up. So it was like, what can we gain from this game? Cats are good. West Coast are bad. West Coast played bad because they just want the season to be over. It's understandable. It's been a pretty terrible year for them. And the Cats did what was needed to be done. So move on to finals as soon as possible. And it's exciting. Another top 4 position. Double chance yet again. Bring on to finals.
Before I throw to you, Sambo, like I can hear the voices saying, what would we have got out of, driving the advantage home in the second half, and the answer, of course, being, well, the percentage that I said it on Twitter. I'm sure I said it on the podcast. I'm sure I've said it to you guys. If there was any discussion about percentage from coaches to players, I would be absolutely gobsmacked and disappointed. Like, if you're not just focused in on the process of how do we play well and then how do we get through the game as unscathed as possible, then I don't know what you're doing. And ultimately, that ability to win a home final and control our destiny was lost in the second half against St Kilda, not in the second half against West Coast. And I thought you saw some Chris Scott frustration after that game, understandably more so. Like, he sort of said, we know what we've, I'm sure he said something to the effect of, like, we're aware of what we've just kind of handed off to fate now. Like, it was in our control, and now it's not.
Plus, Port Adelaide pretty much, they'll put it to bed as soon as they beat Fremantle. It's like, it doesn't matter about percentage if the other team's a game ahead of you. So the Cats were just like, we got the percentage that we thought would be enough if Port did lose to jump them, but they didn't. So the Cats are third, Port's second. We play them, we move on.
Your thoughts on the game, Sambo?
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like, I don't think you can take much from either half. I think a lot of people are trying to take stuff for West Coast from the second half, and I don't want to take the jam out of their donut. But again, I didn't. I felt like the first half was basically like, okay, this is basically more or less playing against an Auskick team. And then the second half was kind of like 2 Auskick teams playing, really. Like, like we said, you guys have already mentioned with the resting, but even just the intensity, the pressure, the running, like, it just dropped off dramatically from the Cats. And even then, I think they did beat us in the second half by 7 points. I think it was. Yeah. So, like, it still wasn't like, oh gosh. And there's no point were they actually bringing back that margin significantly. It was more or less just, just winding down the clock, really. Um, the exception being Dangerfield. I thought Dangerfield was still going for stuff in the fourth quarter where you're like, what are you doing? Just go,
I
go
was
and,
freaking
go,
out.
and-
Sam,
go
every
and
time he
sit
burst
down.
away.
Go and sit down, Danger. Like,
Doesn't know how to stop. That's the problem.
no,
He doesn't know how to
no.
go slow, does he?
No, no. I mean, it was just as he'd come back from that injury, not so long ago that he said he's had to find a new way to do things, and um,
The-
it
the-
didn't even last one game. I reckon maybe the first bounce of his return game he might have taken a little bit easy, and then from that point on. But yeah, it was the only thing we can really take from it, apart from just a nice relaxing watch that we had, is that I think in a lot of ways that first half is sort of ideally how the Cats want to play. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, there would be an opposition that would push us and test us and all that kind of stuff. But I think that first half is a pretty good example of how the Cats, like an ideal. If you're doing some kind of football comparison where you weren't actually like watching the game, but you were simulating it, you were getting examples of the the team's best games and simulating it. I think you got a really good case study of Geelong's football from that first half. That was about all you could take from it. You go, okay, so this is how our games probably look at training. This is probably how it looks. Well, actually, they're probably more intense at training. So how this is how the games look at training when we're playing against the Witches hats. So I think I think it was just a complete complete and utter league of their own, complete and utter mismatch. So you can't take too much from it. But I won't sniff at that for sure. And I think the second half was perfectly acceptable to me when as you guys have already laid it all out as far as percentage and all that guff goes. I don't think any professional coaches are really stressed about that. And I would probably say Chris Scott least of them all. I'd say that none of them really, really worry about it. I'd say he's the one most likely not to focus on it. Um, and anyone that's stressed about that. I mean, which would you rather? Would you rather us have somehow, Port lose and we finish second, but we've got a fresh slew of injuries and Dangerfield's redone his hammies? Or would you like us
Exactly.
to go in and play Port, hopefully as close as we can get? I think, as far as I know, and this maybe moves us from general thoughts into talking points. I don't know about you guys, but as far as I know, we're about as good a chance as we've ever been for this first final at going into a game with 100% squad health.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds
Like
about
like for,
Yeah.
for this year, like SDK is supposed to come back. Tom Hawkins
Yeah.
is making a push to come back. Cam Guthrie apparently is, according to sources, is in the mix for selection. As far as we know, Humphreys and Stewart's injuries were minor, and they were just
Yeah.
giving them a rest. So there's nothing to worry about there, as far as we know. So yeah, it's, to my knowledge, this is the first time all year. I mean, discounting Conway, I guess, but the first time all year that
Yeah,
we
sure.
could more or less have the pick of the squad we want. That we're just choosing the team we want. It's not at all influenced by health. So, um, yeah, that's a really interesting and hopefully pretty enviable position to be in for the team.
If you
Yes.
think about that,
Great.
given how the years unfolded, like the ups and downs, the injuries, I meant to look up the stat, but I haven't. Dangerfield has played, is it 13 games, 14 games for the season or something?
Yeah.
We've had, that big losing section of the season. We've had some real ups and downs. At one point, we were 8-6. So to finish the season 15-8, and get the double chance, and as you said, pretty much have the opportunity to go in, not 100% healthy, but with the opportunity to maybe select
Yeah.
98% of the players you would like to, maybe in 85% fitness and form. That's a pretty remarkable achievement to get to this point of the season,
Ah,
and have given yourself another opportunity to have a crack.
it's pretty remarkable that everyone, at the start of the year, basically said the Cats done, dusted, not going to make finals. I don't think there was one media person who said the Cats could make finals, except Damien Barrett. I think he was the only one that had any thought the Cats could make it. But everyone else thought that Cats cannot make the finals. Gold Coast will kick them out. Saints will either kick them out. Carlton's going to kick them out. Everyone's going to kick us out. Well, Saints, Gold Coast, Bombers, well, especially the Bombers. I mean, what an absolute nosedive of the season theirs was. That was hilarious. But yeah, the Cats, what a position. Like as we said, it's only top four is locked away. You only need to win 2 games to get into the grand final. That's crazy. It's such an advantage. You got that lifeline as well in the first week. So yeah, for the Cats to just cruise away into the top 3 without really anyone noticing is also just the other remarkable thing. Like, and had many opportunities to even finish higher up on the ladder if we take the chances. Like so many, and you can say that about any team this year. Like, take the chances. You're in the finals. They're up a bit higher. Exactly the same for the Cats. Could have been first if we just won a couple, just kicked a little bit straighter in a couple of games. So the fact that everyone's saying the Cats just going to be in there to make up the numbers or going out in straight sets, I don't think we've really seen a whole season from the Cats, and it's going to be a fun finals experience. As I said, I'm not super excited just yet, just because I was just so expecting the Cats to make finals and find a way to get there. That hasn't really sunk in yet until probably next week when we do the preview for the Thursday night game. So I'm still just very much like, yep, this is where we belong. This is nice. Look forward to that game.
I'll just say too, I think we're going to have a lot of time to sort of talk about the context of the season and all that sort of stuff and what's been achieved, the ups and downs. We're going to talk a little bit about some of our favorite moments, obviously, in the extended part of the show. But to bring it back to this game against West Coast and you know, trying to sift through the wreckage of what we've all acknowledged was like when we're not sitting here taking massive things out of it, really. Like Sambo said, like that first half, Geelong probably have more intense training sessions behind closed doors than that. It was borderline embarrassing, really. Like if West Coast hadn't come out after in the second half and shown something, I would have been stunned. Like that was a group of individuals who did not want to be there. And as you said, Johnny, I understand why. But something I wanted to just get a conversation started with you, Sambo, because it's something you've brought up repeatedly, is how Geelong went about attacking inside 50. And obviously we've got to foreshadow it with all the context of, you know, who you're playing and the pressure through the middle and all that sort of stuff. But the Cats had 27 marks inside 50. And we talked obviously on the afternoon about what, you know, you sort of saw was something that you maybe wanted to see more often during the season.
Yeah, I mean, 27 marks inside 50 with a season average of 13. So we more than doubled our season average. So I think that's I mean, we can't keep saying within the scope, within the context of this game, blah 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 blah. So you already said it. I'll say it. Obviously, I understand that, you know, it was a different sort of game and a different sort of defensive pressure and all that kind of stuff. But that's why I was trying to look at it before through the prism of like, this is the ideal scenario for the Cats. This is what we need to try and achieve against any team. And if you're aiming for this and you're operating at 50% the efficiency that we're able to operate at against West Coast, then you're still in with a real shot. And I think it wasn't it wasn't one particular thing that we did well going inside 50. But specifically what I've been talking about for probably not all year, but probably for the last 6 to 8 weeks, maybe, is a variety of approaches inside 50. And I think that's what we saw. It wasn't that we changed from long bombs into the square to doing just a chip kick inside the 50 or something. It's the fact that we were using all of them. We were doing long bombs to the square, you know, trying to hit up someone down there, trying to cause chaos there. We were hitting leads, you know, like a 25 me to kick to a leading Ollie Henry or Jeremy Cameron. Or Neil made some good leads. Even Stengel a couple of times it was we tried to hit those nice leading marks, and we might have just put the kick a little bit high. But we also did that one, the lateral one where you're going wide and then you cut it back. You're in a position where you could probably go for a snap, probably go for a low percentage goal, but you cut it back. I mean the absolute quintessential one of that was the grind Myers grab it and kick it like in the one fluid motion. Obviously, I don't expect all of those ones to look like that, but that's the kind of thing. The changing the angles, working it round, not always delivering. Probably the only one we didn't really see was a hand pass, a handball off, and a running shot from the 50. We saw a great opportunity for it with Duncan. I think you mentioned it, Jake, and they burnt him. They didn't give it to Duncan. But I think that was really encouraging, and I think a lot of other teams are going to push a lot harder. They're going to make, they're probably not going to give up 27 marks inside 50. But like I said, if we can be approaching those in all those different ways, if we can get the long kicks to our tools, if we can try and hit up the leading marks, if we can get some scrappy goals off a bounce and a throw in, if we can get some good goals from the boundary, but then also cutting it back and trying to hit someone up that's sort of 35, 40 out more central, I think we're in a really good shape. And I just think that's going to make it infinitely harder. If we're just trying to, if Hawkins comes back, say, and we're just trying to hit Hawkins on the lead every single time, it just gets way too predictable. And I think our forward push has become a little bit predictable in the sort of middle to late part of this season. So I thought this was a real return to that varied approach towards goal.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. Johnny, did you see? I mean, first of all, if you got anything to add to Sambo's thoughts, but like, did you see anything like with how he moved the ball in the middle of the ground? Because at times we've talked about that, we've overhandled it at times. We feel. What did you notice there in the middle of the ground against West Coast?
Not much. No pressure. Definitely no pressure in that first half. So it was hard to see how well the Cats were able to move, but they were like just moving it with such ease and such just freedom. Like the pressure from West Coast was just appalling. Like they just applied no pressure, let the Cats do whatever they wanted. And in that second half, they did pick up the pressure a bit more. But then it's also on the other hand, the Cats were just like, we're not going to push too hard because we don't need to. We've won this game. It was 1/8 quarter time, so we don't have to. And there was a few moments where they did over handball a bit too often. It was just like just kick it. You're getting yourself into trouble, and you don't want to do that in finals. But I think that if they can move it like that against any team, it's going to be really difficult to stop. It's going to be pretty deadly, but it's going to be hard against a team that's got good midfield that knows what to expect from the Cats. They know to apply the pressure. You've got to apply pressure to any team, obviously, and you've got to know how to apply it. And we're not going to come up against a team that's a West Coast in the finals. They're all going to be wanting to play at the absolute best, and that's what we are expecting. So I think if the Cats just quieten down on the handballs, just a touch bit more, and not handballs are good if it's direct, straight to a player. It's quick, and he can handball your way out of trouble. It's the ones that are like the last second handball up in the air where the player's got to stand there and wait. That are the ones that are really causing the Cats big issues and a few headaches at the moment, where it just doesn't move the game forward. It stops the Cats moving the ball forward and just invites all this pressure from the opposition. So I think they definitely can fix it quite easily, quite quickly. And normally the easy way is just kicking it. Even if it is kicked down the line to a contest, that's better down the line away from the opposition's forward line rather than near their 50 where they can apply the pressure, outnumber you, get the kick inside 50 where you're outnumbered and out of position. But yeah, as I said, it's tough to pick anything out that West Coast game because it was just either the West Coast were applying no pressure or the Cats just weren't running at the full tilt. But as I said, if they play it like that, handball it like that, kick it the way they did against West Coast throughout the game, it's going to hold them up really well in finals. It's just over handballing. They've got to limit themselves on the over handballing because that's getting us in trouble.
It was just that classic thing, wasn't it? Like, I feel like all sides must do it, but I feel like it's particularly evident when Geelong start the Harlem Globetrotters stuff. Yeah. So let's get everyone a touch. Let's really get creative and try every single, different type of handball that we've ever,
I went to the stats after the game and expecting to have 4, 5, 6 Cats with 30 plus disposals. The Cats with the highest disposal count was Max Holmes with 26. And I was like, really? Shit, that's not what I was expecting. It was 1, 2, 6, 8, 9, 10 Cats had 20 plus disposals.
Yeah.
And
good spread. Well, they knew not to go to 30.
Yeah, exactly.
They knew not.
If they went to 30, West Coast. If they went to 30, West Coast would have run down the 100-point lead after halftime and won that game.
163 handballs was the total. Our season average is 135, so nearly plus 30 on the season average. Possession, 263 uncontested possession. Our season average is 203. We had 117 marks. It's nearly 30 more than our season average. Like, we're not going to get that sort of space, are we, in finals, Sam?
No, definitely not.
I would say not, but I would say we're also not going to expect that kind of pace. Like, my last thing on the handballing and the over handling of it is that I think we were just getting a little bit sucked into it because we were allowed to do it. We'd had some brilliant chains of movement. So it was kind of like every time we got the ball, we wanted to craft a brilliant move. So yeah, I don't think it. Well, I hope it won't necessarily translate because we wouldn't be given the opportunity to do that, to worry about that. So yeah, I'm not too concerned, but yeah, it was definitely a little chaotic sometimes with the amount of touches we'd have in the space of about 40 seconds.
Yeah. Love it. I don't really have any more. Oh, actually, I do have a couple of notes. I thought that, as you said, I thought there was some bits in the second half. The game really went to shit, basically. Like, there were moments where it was in the back line. I'm like, oh, cool. There's just maybe 2 or 3 players in the whole frame running into West Coast's, forward 50 or whatever. Like, there was just so much space. And they weren't even moving it that fast. And sometimes we were able to just trot back and stop them. Other times they would go and get a relatively easy shot on goal. Like, some of the pressure through the middle was just virtually non-existent. But I love that we punished them. We scored on nearly, 65% of our entries inside 50, which is just, that sort of shows you what you're up against. I did think the back line actually did some really, really nice things. Jack Henry faced 6 contested defensive one-on-ones. He lost 2, but he won 4. Mark Blixarves, I thought, played reasonably well. The other thing I'll just say about Jack Henry too, no turnovers, just 1 clanger. He was, I thought, really, really reliable down back. But there were a number of them. Jake Kolajasny did some great stuff down back. I thought Zach Guthrie did some really nice stuff, off the back line. So I thought they played well, the back line group. I thought it was, a great example in the second half of a low wattage version of what happens to Geelong sometimes in real games when the midfield drops off their pressure or the forward line pressure drops off and the back line gets exposed because they're not getting help further up the ground. So It was kind of like that in slow motion once we put the cue in the rack. But let's talk about, we're going to get to our votes shortly, but wanted to maybe take the time to discuss a few individuals who might not get into your votes, chaps. I want to start the conversation with Zach Tui. Didn't have the world's biggest game, but I think, if you're looking for those send-off performances, the important thing was he hit the scoreboard with a really lovely snapped goal at 16 touches, a couple of tackles. It was just, I don't know, it was nice to see him get that goal. And it's crazy to think that we might be, that we are, not might be, in a month and a half, whatever it is, 6 weeks, he's not going to be there anymore. It's kind of a bit sad.
It is very sad that the Moroccan sunset is walking off into
Moroccan
the
sunset.
Moroccan sunset. It's
Could you guys
Yeah, it's-
believe that Fox Footy commentators had not heard the Moroccan sunset
I know
line?
that's
Was it Howie?
ridiculous. Yeah, it was I don't know how you don't hear that. It's all over social media. I'm pretty sure I've heard
Yeah.
other commentators say it before. I don't know how he doesn't know he's called a Moroccan sunset. Yeah, very yeah, it was like a good way to send Reg and Hawkeye off. Massive win. Good way. It was good to see them both out there soaking that up, going around the ground a few times with the kids and the family and all that. So yeah, it was a sad day, but a nice way to see them off at GMHBA, and hopefully we can send them off even better in the final series, because they both definitely deserve at least one more premiership medallion around their necks.
It would be lovely. Sambo, you got any players? Johnny, you got any players?
I mean, Reece Stanley, I think deserves a shout out. I don't think it's hard. I want to give everyone compliment sandwiches by kind of going, it's hard to read in this game, but I think Bailey Williams is a pretty decent ruckman. Like I don't think Stanley, of all the players out there, I think Stanley's matchup he had one of probably the most genuine matchups, being a ruckman against another ruckman in the ruck contest. And so for him to come out on top, I thought was all right. I think he might have had a couple of clangers in there, but I don't know. I'm just still a fan of Stanley. I think he's not like he's not like a player that's going to have moments that win you a game probably, but I just don't know. I don't know why he cops the sort of the not hate, but the sort of the disrespect that he does cop. He's been really good for us for a very long time. And I'm very grateful that he's still there being good for us heading into this finals campaign.
Yeah, absolutely.
The tackle
Premiership
in the
player.
Ford 50, Johnny. The holding the ball tackle that he won, and then went back and slotted the
Brilliant.
goal late in the game. It was very
Ah,
nice. Players.
It was such a good game by old Stanger. Good to see him get a goal. Who do I have? Zach Guthrie. I thought it was another really solid game by old Guthrie, doing what he does every single week. Got a nice glow up by Chris Scott, saying how just what an absolute hard working machine he is. And I think Joel Selwood said the same thing. Was that it might have even been Joel Selwood who said this. If it was definitely Scott or Selwood, but they said that yeah, he's just like the most hard working player in the team, and you can see it. We've been saying it for a long time. He started pretty raw, pretty low on the basic fundamental skills and all that, but just worked his way through and became one of the key back players for the team. Like, come integral part to the Premiership 2022 team, integral part this year, and he doesn't have outstanding games, but he has outstanding moments throughout the games.
I'll just say this guy, I thought, Sambo, you were talking about, most actual, game-like matchups, like for Stanley versus, the Ruck or whatever, in terms of most a performance that I would take in other games that matter, but didn't quite make my votes. Tyson Stengel, 15 touches, couple of marks, a tackle. He had 2 goal assists and kicked 2 goals, one himself. I thought at times, and maybe I'm misreading, body language, but I thought at times he was one of those players maybe a little bit frustrated that Geelong weren't just doing normal things. I guess, that they weren't hitting the normal options, that maybe at times inside the forward 50, they weren't sharing the ball in the way they would normally share it. And I thought the best
I was
example,
specifically trying to hit up Cameron, I think.
yeah. And then though too, like the fact that he was the one, I can't remember which player it was now, but Stengel got it in a position where he could have blazed away. I think he was in the pocket or whatever, and instead he just spotted up someone else to go and kick
Manor,
an easy
wasn't it?
goal. Yes, I think it was. It was either Manor or Ollie Henry, I reckon. I thought
it
it
was
spoke
Manor.
volumes about him. I think he's quietly in very
Culture.
good form, and probably not being
Yeah.
talked about a lot, which is
He's
just the
had-
way we like it. But yeah, he's
He's
very
having a
good.
sneakily good season. He's old Tice, little Stengels.
Anyone else got anyone else they want to mention, or do we get into votes?
I think we can.
If there's no one else specifically,
Yeah, I mean, no one had a shocker.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right, let's jump into the vote. Sambo, you can lead us off tonight. You won. Actually, Johnny and I did it this way last time. We all did our 1, then all did our 2, then all did our 3. So, Sambo, who's your 1?
No, I won't double check. I've literally changed my votes 3 times. I've gone into the spreadsheet and changed them. I had a bit of trouble with this one. My 1 ended up being Max Holmes. Yeah, I thought he did some really good things, as he is often the case. But speaking of those things that you want to see them attempt to do, even against opposition they're going to take up to us, I thought that their use of Holmes was probably the best it's been. I still think in the scenario they probably could have done it even more, but that the 1-2 hand pass, Holmes picks it up off the halfback, kicks it or hand passes to someone, and they hit him up again, and he just burns 7 players, and then is able to deliver an inside 50.
Yeah.
I thought that they can do that more, but it was really good to see. I thought he was probably really on, and I know that sometimes we question his disposal, but he operated at around 85% disposal efficiency, with 20 something touches, 25 maybe, 26 it was in the end. So yeah, I thought he did really well. And again, if we're just going to look at these as blank templates, these are like Magic the Gathering cards. We're just looking at their stats and what they can do before we actually put them out against in a game. This is a really good Max Holmes Magic the Gathering card, I thought.
Love it.
Definitely. Just going back to Tyson
Johnny,
Stengel, he's kicked 42 goals this year.
42 goals, 16.
16, and in the apprenticeship year, it was 53-27. So he could have a better year than 2022 than a premiership year. So yeah, absolutely having an outstanding season.
And I'll just add to that, John. He's got a career high for goal assists this season, 19 so far.
And I'll also add to Stengel. I think it's probably far and away been his most consistent year. Like I think other years, including 2022, he'd have these massive games where he'd kick a bag of 4 or 5 or whatever, and then he might disappear for like a handful of games. Whereas I think this year, even when he hasn't got goals, he never like disappears. Maybe once or twice this year, I can think of going, oh, he had a bit of a quiet game. But for the most part, he's been like, as you said, Jake, with score involvements and goal assists. Like I think he's just been more. His work rate's been better. There's been more tackles, pressure acts, marks and score assists as well. So yeah, I think it's probably been the most complete year. Even if he doesn't beat it in raw goals, I think it's been his most consistent season at the Cats.
Love it. Johnny, who was your
one?
There's
only been 3 games where Stengel's hasn't kicked a goal. So definitely been consistent. My 1 vote's also Max Holmes. Same reason as Sam. I thought, there was a couple of moments where his kicking wasn't perfect, but there was also a lot more moments where it was so spot on. Like there was that one kick inside 50, like, that's where he has to go. And it was pinpoint perfect kick straight to the player. That's what he can bring. And yeah, he does. I do get a little bit frustrated with his kicking, but I do know he's still young. If his kicking starts turning into those low balls inside 50, it's going to be.
Do you have his
something
kicking
special.
versus handball efficiency, Jay? Because his overall disposal efficiency was 84.6.
Yeah, pretty
In
good.
terms
But
of the
like the raw kicking
just that game.
efficiency. Yeah.
Yes, I can get it for you. He went
just don't-
at 81.3% by foot. So
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Pretty
can-
hard to get much more perfect than that.
No, if you can average
For a bit of-
somewhere near there, that's going to be pretty good. Yeah, Max Holmes. All the reasons Sam said, and the kicking was
764 meters gained.
yeah.
For
Like if he can,
for a bit of context,
you go. I was to say if he keeps getting those meters gains, and then his disposal efficiency just climbs up that bit more throughout average throughout every game, he's going to be so deadly. And good thing is, he's 21, 22? So he's still
21,
got
I think, yeah.
such a long season ahead of him, like long career ahead of him.
So his 81.3% was 13th best among the Cats. So like it was a day on which a lot of the Cats moved the ball pretty well by foot, which when you have 263 uncontested possessions, but then again, not all of them would have had nearly 800 meters gained. So that's not trying to take anything away from it. I gave my one vote to Patrick Dangerfield. He's had a great month to end the season. Obviously, some heroics in some of these games. But yeah, on the weekend, he had 25 disposals, 9 marks, 7 clearances, couple of tackles, nearly 600 meters gained, and he kicked a goal. I think if I honestly could have subbed the VFL team in for the second half, I would have, even if that only meant we won by, 5 goals in the end because West Coast AFL players woke up and suddenly overran us. I wouldn't have cared because it would have meant I didn't have to spend an hour in the second half just biting my fingernails about, please don't ping a hammy. Please don't ping a hammy. So, yeah, my one vote to Patrick Dangerfield. I think he's had a great run into the season. We'll snake here. I'm going to give you my 2 votes. My 2 votes I gave to Jack Henry for all of the reasons I talked about, earlier in the pod. Just, good work, I thought, in his defensive contests. I feel like he's really, come home strong to end the season here. I know he copped some flack earlier in the year, which I thought was a bit unwarranted. I think you can have a down year without being atrocious. And I think he certainly copped more criticism than he was due. And he's really rattled off an impressive end to the year. So that's nice coming into finals. Johnny, who was your 2?
My 2 is also Jack Henry. All the reasons you said, a really outstanding game and some really outstanding moments. There's only one moment that I could think of that he got truly beaten one-on-one, and that was just a bit of good body work from Harley Reid and a good one-handed mark. Apart from that, I thought he was just dominant in that back line, and nothing really got past him.
Agree with that. Sambo, who was your 2?
My 2 was Tom Atkins, actually. I
Nice.
think a man that probably won't get any mention from any media outlets anywhere. But again, it's just my go-to thing for the last 7 seasons. No, the last couple of years was that, like closing on like a perfect, like a version of that player's perfect game. And I think this is along the lines. I think 22 disposals from Tom Atkins is pretty pretty high. Team high 9 tackles. I thought his work rate was really good. Even into the last sort of the third and fourth quarters when it didn't need to be, and it certainly dropped a bit, I would say. but I thought he was still doing just really good things. He's one of those players that I think the absence of Cam Guthrie's been huge, but I think Tom Atkins has added some slight Cam Guthrie-ness to his repertoire. Just some of those kicks in a blender or a little hand pass, a pick up and a run backwards for a hand pass out of traffic. Like he's not a Patrick Dangerfield and it's maybe how I thought earlier in his career, how I thought he would be. He would be a bull, like a pick it up and burst forward. But he's actually getting quite smart with the way he steps outside of the flow of traffic. He'll pick it up and he's not afraid to step back, hand pass it back, go laterally, or even take on a tackle in order to get himself away from the sort of throng of pressure. I think he was also close to equal team high for contested possessions. Disposal efficiency was 62.5. But I'm kind of happy with that for a guy whose possessions are mostly going to be contested possessions. So yeah, and he also has 6 score involvements. I thought it was a really good showing from Tom Atkins. Just a really consistent from go to woe from the start to finish. I thought he was just always plugging away at it and doing what he needed to do for the team and to get those 4 points.
Finally, we come to our 3 votes. I'm going to put first say here to Johnny because Sam and I have sort of started the 2. But Johnny, I imagine there's no surprises here, and this is a player who's talking about copping flack throughout the year from angry Cats fans. Johnny, this player has certainly at times got under your skin. Who'd you go with?
I'm going with Shannon Neal for the big 3. The nice.
just sheer potential. The points just for sheer potential. I think we're grading. These are 3 points for a future game that he's bound to have.
Yeah, he's going to kick 9 at some point. He could be. 3 votes are obviously going to Jeremy Cameron. What was it? 7 goals off 7 disposals. Like just one of those games where he went. I reckon he was thinking. After 5 minutes, it's like, this West Coast team's nowhere near me. I'm going to feast today. They're cooked. I'm going to just have a meal today. And he went out and had several meals. And even my favourite moment was a perfect pass from Brian Myers straight to Ollie Dempsey, where Cameron was like, "That's mine."
Meep.
Kicked a goal. It was like, oh, that is... And no one saw him coming. Like Henry, Oliver Dempsey standing right there, is like arms out, waiting for the mark, and he does through a flash. And I was like, he's just on. What a time! What a game! What a part of the season to switch your game on right before finals. Have a week off, stretch them skinny hammies, and get back to the farm. Have a little bit more practice. But boy, yeah, what a game! Just unstoppable. Just turn back the clock and just slotted the easy goals and then miss an easy one. But 9 goals won. What was it, like 16 or so disposals? It's just a freakish game.
Johnny's
absolutely freakish.
Johnny's
game.
Happy with his kicking finally, but he's still going to give a passing slide at his legs.
Absolutely. I can't remember if I picked him for most goals.
I don't think we did it this week.
The funny thing, I thought, and like, no spoilers. It's not much of a spoiler alert. 3 votes to Jeremy Cameron from me as well. Like there's a universe in which we could have had Jeremy Cameron kicking 9 and Ollie Henry kicking like 7 or 8 if Ollie Henry's kicking had been on par. But Sambo, you coined a new stats term from this, and it was off the back of the Ollie Dempsey goal he kicked early, which was, we should class it as goals, behinds, and yoinks. You care to explain?
I think the sound effect explains it perfectly well. Any goal or score by which that you achieve by fleecing someone, whether it's a teammate or an opposition player. Just an absolute steal. And that Jeremy Cameron, I mean, the quintessential one was the North Melbourne Ollie Dempsey stealing it from the player's hand and then kicking a goal. That's about as peak yoink as you can get. But the most yoink of this game was certainly Jeremy Cameron, which is funny coming across and stealing the mark. It's far be it from me to admit to a bit of hypocrisy here. But I feel like if that was Sean Manor doing it, I don't think we're giving him the glowing review that we're giving to Jeremy Cameron for running across and stealing someone else's mark. I think there'd be some, it's not for the team.
Yeah.
Where's the culture?
Just go quickly inject the All Australian squad just been released. Three cats have made the initial list.
3.
Can we guess?
Any guesses? Yes, guess away.
I'm going to say Jeremy Cameron's one.
Yep, ding, perfect.
You go for
Max
a second
Holmes.
guess here, Sambo.
Sam, you said Max Holmes.
I did.
Ding.
All right,
perfect. One more.
Could be
I'm going to say
Stengel.
Tyson Stengel.
Yes,
Okay.
bang, perfect. 3 from 3,
and the same guesses each as well. Nice.
I was just about to go. It's not the obvious choice.
No, he had that big dip mid-season.
He did. So yeah,
I think it's fair enough
Cameron,
for
Holmes,
students.
Stengel.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Like that. My final thoughts. I know we're going to wrap up. We're closing in on the hour. So just on Jeremy Cameron, I'm all here for that. He's so often about everyone else's success. He's always the one, cheer other people, and celebrate their success. But I was there for him just filling his boots against a shitbag team. And God, I hope we get to see more of him playing inside the forward 50 in the finals, because he could literally be a premiership winning kind of, he's obviously already a premiership winner, but he could be that thing that takes you over the line again. Was it the first goal of the day he kicked, which was on the tucked in on the boundary, or was that like goal number 5? I can't remember, but whatever it was.
No, I
was
think
just
that was his first one. Yeah, it was his first one.
Yeah, it's the one where you'd be going around the corner from here. Like, no, this is where.
That's what I said. Is he going to try and go around the corner? No. Drop punt.
This is where he kicked that match turning game against Collingwood off the drop punt.
2022 qualifying final. All right, I think that's it. That's all. We are done. The Cats have success. So yeah, another season in which Geelong finishes top 4, 15 wins, 8 losses after stumbling to 8-6. They run out the season 7-2 in the final 9 games. Obviously going to go and take on Port Adelaide. That's not, until not the end of this week, the end of, the end of next week. We'll get to all sorts of coverage of that, no doubt. But that's all from us here on the public part of the show. As per the usual, we will play you out with the halftime horse. Until next time, go Cats!
Go Cats! You get your cordial, you get your lollies, a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely. Sprays. So you get your cordial, you get your lollies, a spray from the coach. Lollies, absolutely. Sprays.
That's what halftime's about.